Joël Stolz, the Vienna correspondent of Le Monde. This is a question more for Mr. Ivanov. Not even a week ago, Russia has not allowed at the ministerial conference of the OSCE that to be adopted a resolution or a text on the freedom of internet and especially of the bloggers. It seems that this is an issue which is at stake or a central point, especially in the last demonstrations we are seeing in Moscow. Do you think that what is going on in Russia could be a turning point or influence positively, of course, in the sense that they would allow it, or more negatively, any decision on the freedom for the people who express themselves on internet? You mentioned also the bleeding of the elites who want to emigrate from Russia. And I know that there is another concern, which is the fact that maybe 30,000 young people, mainly young men, are killed every year in Russia by drugs. So don't you think that there is a double bind for the Russian elite now, that if they strengthen themselves against freedom, the elites will flee and even more young people will die every year from the drugs because they see no future in Russia?
I think that this is some kind of artificial mixed different problems. The drugs, you have problem of drugs. This is a disaster for young generations, not only in Russia, but not because they cannot enter in internet and receive information. This is the other problem. That's why this is not political consequences. This is the internal problem between generation, and I agree that it's one of the very serious danger for the country. But I repeat, this is not coming because of not accession to internet or not having the possibility to receive the information. It's problem of development of a society in general, and long-term measures it's necessary to take. Speaking about drugs, we are in, without justifying, we are in the very delicate geographic position. Drugs coming from one side, from Afghanistan, but also artificial drugs coming from Europe. And you receive. That's why we are under the double pressure with drugs coming to our country. I repeat, not justifying. It's necessary to develop culture, it's necessary to develop other also restrictions, but it's real problem. Speaking about the decision of Russia not to support that resolution. I will be frank, I didn't read that resolution, that's why I don't know exactly the text, but when I was a minister and I introduced the draft in New York, and I think that speaking about internet, this is the part of a big issue of information. This is, we introduced the draft of information security or cyber security today, as they call. That's why you cannot divide that issue. But I repeat, according to all information, we have the users, the biggest block of users of internet in our country, and they receive the information. And I will tell you, these manifestations organized, they were organized through internet, not through TV or radio, but through internet, what demonstrates again that you have free access to the internet information. That's why I don't think that today it is possible to block it, because I am not expert in that issues, but as experts say, it is impossible to block because they find other ways how to distribute the information. And I don't think that it will be the intention of the government. That's why my opinion is that internet today play more and more active role in young generation and this elite, because for many reasons. One reason is because TV is bad. TV is under control and they give mainly official information which people don't want to listen. Second, radio is not so strong. That's why people mainly have interconnection through internet. And I think that today it gains so strong position in the society that it will be very difficult to cut it.
Thank you very much. I don't see from where I am. Is there another question? Yes, please.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Well, sir, sorry, I'm from Asia, but I would, this strong discussion on Europe over the last 2-3 days. Now, I see that Europe is probably emerging from being a trading bloc to be maybe in a few years a very strong political bloc in the years to come. And that, what do you think, would that make it a very hard decision for the UK and for Russia? Because UK is, I think, physically closer to Europe, but emotionally closer across the Atlantic to its North American friends there. And similarly, Russia, I would like to believe, is physically just sitting across Europe, but is emotionally very close to the other Asian countries. So if Europe were to harden up as a very strong political bloc in the years or decades to come, what would be the reaction or interface across the fences?
Well, Joschka.
First of all, let me start with my assessment of Russia. It started a few years after the end of the Cold War and after the withdrawal of the Red Army and Russian soldiers back to Russia, the Russian Federation, that what we experienced not only in Germany, here in Vienna, in the Czech Republic and some other places, that the Russians came back, Russian middle class and upper middle class came back, and nowadays we have a strong Russian minorities in, for example, the cities I spoke, Berlin. After the Turkish origin minority, the Russian minority in the meanwhile is the second biggest, with shops, newspapers, TV stations, radio stations, everything. The flights between European cities and Russian cities are sold out, and there are many flights every day. I think that the majority of the Russian population, at least the middle class which lives in Russian cities, 80% of the Russian population is living west of the Ural, and they are looking to Europe by understandable reasons. So I think what we could do, and this is one of the negotiation issues between Russia and the EU, is about freedom of traveling, the visa regime. Now, if in the follow-up of the present developments, the EU could move ahead with easing the visa regime, I think this would be a very positive contribution. But for the majority of the Russian people, the vast majority are looking to the West. So, and the first station when they look to the West is Europe. It's a geographic reality, and there are also historically and culturally very strong connections between the different European nations and capitals and Russia. So I don't see that Russia will turn to Asia. Russia has Asian interests, very strong Asian interests. But talking about the major perspective, I think the Russian perspective will be towards Europe, and I see there a positive option. Now, for the UK, I think the UK has shot itself into the leg with this decision. I will tell you why. Because America, dealing with its own challenges, has an interest in a strong Europe. And he has no interest in a partner which objectively is getting smaller and smaller. UK is also in a complicated economic situation, to use diplomatic words. Therefore, a UK playing a key role, which would be possible if the UK would have a different approach to the European Union. A UK playing a different, stronger role in the future EU would be much more attractive for the United States than a UK which has opted out from Europe. I think this is one of the major issues in the now starting and accelerating debate, domestic debate in the United Kingdom. At least you can read it as a central argument in the commentaries nowadays. So I think even in the transatlantic perspective of the United Kingdom, which is a very strong tradition and an admirable tradition in the United Kingdom, I think they shot themselves in their foot, because Americans will turn to a stronger Europe, more united, more powerful, and not to the UK.
Igor, and then
As you know, in our country, before revolution, after revolution, we had different tendency, one in favor of development relations with the West, with Europe, other with Asia. I think that today that geography doesn't play so important role. Today the world is globalized world. That's why it's necessary to develop to different directions. Speaking about Europe, I think that I am very pragmatic. I will tell you, I cannot imagine the membership of Russia in the NATO. I cannot imagine the membership of Russia in the European Union, but I am very in favor of developing relations with both structures, NATO and European Union. With European Union, what we have to do is to create solid legal basis of our cooperation. Non-visa regime is only one of them, but we have to create, that's why we agreed to create common spaces. What does it mean, common space? It means we play with the same rules on the basis of the same legal basis, without formally be part of the European Union. This is how I see the future development. In transportation, created the same lines of transport. In the energy security, to create the same basis of energy security, and not discussing if to construct Nabucco or construct South Stream, but to have the common energy strategy, and in other fields. At the same time, we have to understand that you cannot try from Siberia raw materials to Europe. It's a stupid thing today. You have to calculate today. That's why we have a huge market in Asia, in Pacific Asia regional, and we have to use that privilege to be one part in Asia and the other part in Europe, and to develop that relations. And that's why we are members of all main regional organizations, or IPEC and other structures, and we will develop that relations. We will have summit in September of IPEC in Vladivostok, and our main idea is to develop energy security, transportation security, food security, and other fields where we can play a real role and develop relations with that countries.